Hello everyone, and you're very welcome to today's webinar, which is focusing on managing your breeding season with Herdwatch and XL Vets. My name is Owen Maloney. I'm Head of Customer Success here at Herdwatch, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined again tonight by Kevin O'Sullivan. Kevin, how are you keeping? Very happy to have you with us tonight.
Oh, great. Keeping the bright side shining out, hopefully.
I hope so. I know just introduce Kevin to anybody that maybe hasn't been on the previous webinars with himself. Kevin is a partner in Glasson Veterinary Clinic down in County Cork. He's also chairman of the XL Vets group as well. I suppose I'd like to start off this evening, Kevin, just asking you, as a vet, have things maybe quietened down a little bit after the madness of calving, or would you find that you're still kind of as busy as ever?
Yeah, it's a sort of different madness now. You know, yes, the calvings have quietened down, well, not completely, but a nice little bit. But you know, we're beginning to do an awful lot of this fertility work and TB testing, and you know, there's a bit of grass technique about. So we have those things. There's still the urgent calls there, but I suppose we're busier now with routine calls than say in the middle of February when we kind of just are reactionary to whatever, nearly a fire brigade service to the sick animal.
The 24/7 stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, I, as well as everybody else, we're looking forward to seeing what you've ready for tonight, Kevin. So for anybody watching, as always, if you do have any questions throughout the webinar for Kevin on any of the stuff that he covers, or for myself when it comes to Herdwatch and how to use it in relation to your breeding, feel free to just pop your chat or pop your message as always into the chat area. We're going to leave some time at the end of the webinar to try and answer as many of those questions as we can. Luckily tonight we also have Mervyn helping out, so he's going to do his best to answer as many questions that you have as well throughout the webinar, so keep them coming. Like I said, I'm going to pass you over to Kevin now in a couple of minutes, but before we do, just a quick overview of what we're going to cover on tonight's webinar. So Kevin is going to be taking I suppose most of the heavy lifting here. He's going to tell you about how to get the most out of your breeding season, how to best manage it. So he's going to focus on things on the breeding season, how it's gone so far, what you can actually do now to get the best out of the rest of your breeding season, things like getting the most out of your vet visits, the importance of your bull health, scanning, whether that be pre-breeding or obviously pregnancy scanning, and also just preparing for next year's calving season and breeding season too. Once Kevin wraps that up, I'm then going to spend a couple of minutes just showing you how to enter your breeding events into the Herdwatch app itself, and how Herdwatch works to make your life an awful lot easier when it comes to managing your breeding. And as I said, we're going to finish off then with a couple of questions that you might have for Kevin or myself. Before I do hand over to yourself, Kevin, just a little bit about Herdwatch. If you're new to Herdwatch, if this is your first webinar, just a little bit about where we've come from and our story to date. So Herdwatch was launched in 2014, and I suppose since then we've managed to luckily become the market leading app in both Ireland and the UK. We now have over 17,000 members that are using the Herdwatch app every day to remove paperwork, save time, and ultimately make better decisions on their farm. In that time, we've managed to download more than 2.1 million animals from the relevant Department of Agriculture's, from Ag Food here in Ireland, BCMS in the UK, and EID in Scotland, and also from APHIS in Northern Ireland. We also have over 2.3 million calves that have been registered using the Herdwatch app in those 8 years. So it's a massive help and a massive tool to help farmers reduce paperwork and save time when they're at their busiest. And as you can see there, our farmers tell us that Herdwatch saves them up to 3 hours per week when they're at their busiest on the farm. And just very quickly, just a little bit on Kevin's XL Vets and the XL Vets group. So I hope I have all this right, Kevin, but I believe XL Vets was set up in 2010, and it now comprises of over 30 independent businesses and 52 clinics, and I believe you're just shy of 200 vets now involved in the practice as well on the XL side, Kevin. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's I think 190 and a huge number of ancillary staff with nurses and administrators and stuff like that. Like our practice alone we're approaching 15-16 vets now, and another nearly the same in non-vets. Okay. So it's a big enough concern, and spread it right around the country. I suppose the only corner of the country we don't really have is northeast, but we have practically a good spread around every other county.
Brilliant, and you can, as you can see from the slide there, the practices are covering everything from large farm animals to obviously small pets.
That's a growing part everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, at this point, Kevin, I've kept you waiting for long enough. I'm happy to hand over to you. I know you've great stuff ready to go here. So I'm going to let you take over here for a couple of minutes, Kevin, and drive on with what you've got ready to go.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, everyone, for the invite to speak. I'm just going to do that's summary at the start, just run through a few little things. I suppose we just start off with the breeding season so far, and I'm aware that I'm based down here in Bandon, a very dairy country, but we do also have quite a few sucklers and pedigree breeders that we intervene with on the fertility side of things. But the breeding season so far has been pretty good. I think the weather has been key to that. The weather has been, in comparison to last year, is definitely a bit warmer. I think the cattle have had a more consistent diet. They've dry grass. Down here, it was scarce at times, but it's after coming very well now. So there's plenty of that there. So I think the diet and a consistent diet. I think when we start going into cows in and out on and off grazings, they're under more pressure, and I think it's definitely better that they're out full time for the fertility side of things. That said, we have had a few issues. We've come across a few mineral deficiencies. With phosphorus deficiency. That's we'd see that with pica, which is cattle eating stones or licking ditches and stuff like that. So that's quite a problem for fertility. So if you suspect that, I certainly would be taking bloods and looking into that, because it's a relatively quick fix. You can get phosphorus into the feed quite quickly or into the water, and it solves that issue. But phosphorus is quite important for fertility, so it's important to do that. Selenium and vitamin E is another deficiency we saw. You've probably seen that a little bit earlier in the season, but it affects fertility because it causes problems with uterine health. So you might have cows holding on to cleanings and being dirty. So again, if we suspect that, we take bloods. A little bit late now if that's the problem, but look, that is what we have been dealing with. And we've had problems similarly with subclinical milk fevers. And this time of year, if you have late calving cows, they have more milk fever because they're generally out of grass. They're probably not getting pre-calver minerals, and grass is too high in calcium in the dry cow diet, so you end up getting more milk fever. So that again will lead to problems when you're trying to get her back in calf, because her uterine health won't be as good. But in general, the season has been good. The temperature is definitely better than last year. Like, I've been wearing t-shirts for the last couple of weeks, when I don't think the t-shirt went down at all in May last year. It was freezing. But we are doing quite a bit of pre-breeding scanning. Some of the guys down here would calve early January, but the majority are breeding for 3 weeks at this stage. The early indications are guys are happy with the cows holding. There hasn't been too many repeats of those early guys, and it's certainly nothing concerning. So there's a lot of pre-breeding scanning, and it depends on the farmer we're dealing with. So some guys we've done whole herd, more guys wait and just get us to examine the cows they haven't seen cycling. They might do a pre-breeding check. They're watching them for 3 weeks to see how they've seen cycling, and any cows we don't see, or that they don't see cycle, we get to see and we do something with. So I'll go through what we do. We've done quite a bit of heifer synchronization for fixed time AI. Great thing about fixed time AI is that you're guaranteeing submission rate, because every animal that gets a progesterone device, either cedars or prids, you're going to get 100% of them AI, whether because you're AIing them fixed time, you're not waiting for a heat to happen. So we're doing quite a bit of that, and that probably ties in very well with guys that are using sex semen. The sex semen, it's critical. Your timing and the protocols that we have with hormones now are quite good. The sex semen is certainly, I think that the sales are quite good, quite strong this year, and I think with the protocols that have improved so much in the last number of years, I think it's working relatively well. So okay, we're a month into the season now. So what can we do? Like, I suppose the most critical thing is, why are we talking about this now? Traditionally, certainly down here, the stock bull is left out around the June bank holiday weekend. So once he is out, it's very, very difficult for us to do anything with the cows that haven't been seen bulling, because We don't know, has it been the farmer hasn't seen them, or has the bull got them, or what is going on with the cow, and we don't want, so, like some of the hormonal treatments we would use would get rid of an early pregnancy that isn't visible on a scanning. So really now is the time to intervene before the bull goes out. We also like to do it now because we can, some of the late calvers, the cows that calved in late March and April, they probably aren't cycling yet, or some of them aren't anyway, and we can intervene and put them on a hormonal program to make sure that they at least get one chance to be AI before the bull is let out. We also do a bit of scanning now at the guys that are out earlier. We're probably starting to do some of the early pregnancy checks, and like every year we do this, and we find cows that are soon pregnant and there's embryo loss, and if we can identify that this time of year, we can save that cow for this year. We get her cycling again. Okay, she's going to move from being an early calver to maybe a mid to late calver, but at least she's not lost the system. We'd also, this time of the year, we'd also be just monitoring general, maybe diet deficiencies or mineral deficiencies. You can be looking out to see, how the first calver is going. Are they looking thin? Are their coats brown? Or we'd be checking that and checking for dirty wounds and stuff like that. It's not too late to intervene. Ideally, we wouldn't be dealing with deficiencies now, but if they're there, we have to strike as soon as we can. So there is methods now, with injections or boluses or even in water to get the imbalances going. And in the really thin cows, so if your late calvers might be struggling in comparison to your early calvers, at least we can maybe change the diet or maybe put them on once a day milking just to see can we get their condition up so that they would be fertile. Heat detection strategies, like it is crucial. Be able to pick up the heats best. It's very easy at the start of the season when you have loads of cows cycling. Like it's if you have a number of cows in the same stage of the cycle, they're going to be reacting off each other, and there'll be plenty mounting, plenty of breeding behavior being demonstrated. But it's like when you get into the second half of the breeding season, there might only be one cow going in a day, and if she has no animal that is interested, she's not going to mount half as often. It's going to be a lot more difficult to see. So we do need to have good heat detection strategies, and we talk to farmers about this. You're talking about tail paints, or maybe some people have gone down the route of collars and maybe ear tags. Certainly, they're working great for identifying the animals, but you can't beat a teaser bull either. All these with proper chin balls all help, because farms certainly now are busy with soil season now. So the last thing you need to be wanting to be doing in the middle of soil season is going checking the animals twice, 3, 4 times a day to see what's cycling. But the main focus of what we're doing now is making sure that all animals are cycling prior to bull let out as possible, and make sure that we're getting them AI, get at least one AI even into those late calvers, just to make sure that that they get a chance to give us maybe a breeding female for next year. So how do you get the most out of vet visits? It's like, what are we doing really when we go out? Like, if you have good records, we can do a lot. So if you were just using AI only, we can definitely check. We'll pick up pregnancies at 28 days. You'd be fairly confident getting pregnancies from then on. But also the big thing is, we want to be picking up the dirty cows and treating, the cows with wound infections. They will not clear very quickly if they're still there at this stage. So that they need either an antibiotic washout or maybe a hormonal treatment to get them going. And estrus cows, especially in the beef cows, we often find that because there's such a strong bond between the suckler cow and her calf, we often find that they're just not cycling. There's nothing going on in the ovary. So we need to be able to detect that. And if that's happening, again, we intervene with a hormonal, something like the PRIDS, beef cows are more challenging, that because a lot of the time they need extra hormones to kickstart the ovaries, that they're not actually producing the eggs just yet. They're truly anestrus, especially if they're not that long calved. We always see cystic cows. They're a lot of time they're in between, the anestrus cow and a cow that's cycling. They're just not getting the hormone levels up. You often see it maybe in the thinner cows, and they just haven't the energy levels to get the eggs developed. So again, you need to identify them. So a lot of them will eventually come, but time is money. And we really want to get our calving pattern as tight and as compact as possible, whether we're dairy or beef. You just really want to get it, down to 10, 11, 12 weeks if possible, and treating these as where we're at. The silent heats, often when we go out there, we can, when we're scanning the ovaries, we can see that actually heat has happened. There has been, the cows are cycling, but people forget that a lot of time the first heat that a cow has after calving is actually silent. So that you could be missing 3 weeks. So if we intervene after a silent heat, we can maybe advance the next heat to occur maybe 10 days after the silent heat, and they're quite often fertile heat. So it's important to see these. And again, if a vet is out and he's treating 10 cows, and they get a hormonal treatment all at the same time, because you're treating the cows together, they're going to display more signs of estrus at the same time, so it'll be easier to detect. So a lot of these cows, you might see us scanning and just giving them a shot of prostaglandin, but just that the act of giving the prostaglandin and making sure that the cows come in together, it's going to be a lot easier to detect. The other thing that we're doing now is the late calvers. They're often they might only be a month calved, 5 weeks calved. If we let them to their own device, it could be another month before they get going. So if we can make sure that their womb is clean, we can just put in maybe a hormonal device into the PRID or the CEDARs again, and advance them. If we put it in a device, it's normally for a cow, it's probably a 10-day break before putting in the coil to AI. So we generally don't like to breed anything that is calved less than 42 days, but we can intervene at 32 days, so that then she's by the time the 10 days is up, she's ready to go on day 42, and then that's saving. You're going to save time there. She may not go in calf that initial heat, but if she does repeat, she's a great chance of going in calf that time. So you between the two heats, you have a good chance of advancing her, and she maybe saving time. Maybe she might calve down 11 months after calving, which is obviously a great saving. The once a day milking, look, we'd advise if we were seeing a lot of thin cows and no activity in the ovaries, it's a lot of time those cows need help nutritionally. So if we just put them back on once a day milking, it just gives them that boost, and gets their chance to get the energy to the ovary. A lot of time when a cow is thin, or if she's producing a huge amount of milk, basically her insulin levels go very, very low, and she doesn't get enough glucose to the ovaries. So if there's not enough energy going to the ovaries, she's not going to produce good quality egg. If she's not producing good quality egg, she's not going to produce good quality embryo, and you're going to get more embryo loss. So it's a huge thing. The other thing that happens this time of year is that there's still. I know this year might be slightly different for feed is expensive, but a lot of guys traditionally would be feeding kind of high levels of protein in the dairy ration, and they forget that the grass is full of protein. So if you're feeding anything above 14% protein in your ration, you're actually oversupplying protein, and that's a problem, because if you give too much protein in the diet, yes, you are stimulating the cow to produce more milk, but that protein needs energy to be converted into milk. That energy, if it mightn't be she mightn't get enough energy in the grass, she'll milk it off her back, and because she's milking it off her back, again you're having less glucose going to the ovaries and poor quality embryos. The other side of it is that protein, when it's broke, if if you have excess protein in the diet, the byproducts of the protein digestion is ammonia in the blood, and that is toxic to embryos as well. So can cause embryo issues as well. But like what we are trying to do in these is to get as many bred before the bulk goes in as possible. So the fixed time AI protocol, is really useful because, as I say, you're guaranteeing that they're going to be served in the next 7 to 10 days or 8 to 10 days normally. The program depends whether it's a heifer or a cow, and there's slight differences, as I said, between the dairy and the beef as well. Like the heifers, generally, you're talking about AIing 8 days after the first visit, while in the cows, it's probably 10 days after the first visit. So it all depends on what you're dealing with. But it is quite successful at getting these bred. The pregnancy scanning, then we're kind of doing a little bit of both now with some of our herds, because some of them are gone past the 30 days, so we're confirming pregnancy in the early cows and just getting the later cows ready to be bred. And as I said, 28 to 30 days, you're happy enough to detect the pregnancy. But also, as I said already, you can also there to see an early embryo loss. You can see that there's kind of non-clear fluid in the womb, and you know that you can find the embryo with no heartbeat. So again, if that happens, we can make sure that embryo is expelled and that the uterus returns to normal as quick as possible, so that she may be better should be better quick enough to go back and calf, be it by AI or by bull. Also, we detect a lot of twins at this time. Find it easy to detect twins in the first kind of 30 to 100 days of pregnancy. After that, it's certainly on internal scanning, it can be difficult because it's hard. The fetus gets to a certain size that you can't see the whole lot of it. At the same time, you're not sure whether you're seeing the same fetus or not. So twins are. It's definitely the early pregnancy is better to detect that. And obviously, then what often happens is that we get cows presented to us that are presumed to be 5-6 weeks pregnant, and we put our hands in, and they may have only had one heat and then gone into anestrus, so they've just stopped cycling. So they're very important to detect, because they might not show heat until July or August if you don't do anything about them. So again, if we find these ones, we treat them to make sure that they get going. And look, as I said, if you want to get more accurate dates, we find that you can get, like there is a huge difference between a 35-day pregnancy and a 60-day pregnancy, while the differences between on scanning between a 5-month and a 6-month or a 7-month pregnancy is more difficult to detect. So if the earlier you scan, the better prediction of calving time you can give. And then what we do, we in a lot of herds, we do a final scan maybe 30 days after the bull is taken out, just to see how we're fixed. And I think that's going to be more important this year with feed being scarcer. Like, people just don't want to carry the passengers anymore. So the earlier we can detect the ones that are not pregnant, and they can be shipped on to maybe to be fattened or whatever. But I think that's going to be vital this year. And then I suppose that's the AI side of it kind of fixed. But the one thing that people sometimes forget about this time of year is that the bull he's going to be left out now. As I said, maybe in the June bank holiday a lot of the time, and he's often overlooked. It amazes me a lot of time we deal with a few fellas that sell bulls, and the bulls are bought but collected the day before that they're needed and just left off and ran into the herd of cows. It's not ideal. Like, ideally, you collect your bull early and make sure that he's acclimatized and he's got all his vaccinations and stuff, and make sure he's fit for purpose. Sometimes we expect too much out of a young bull. A young bull really shouldn't be left with anything more than 15, maybe 20 animals. Like, it is a lot for them, especially if you get a lot of cows on heat in the same day. I don't think any bull will do more than one, maybe two cows in the same day. And especially when we started using the the synchronization, a lot of the repeats are going to happen in the same few days, in 3 weeks and 6 weeks after the initial time. And if you have a lot of repeats together, one bull may not be enough. So you need to make sure that you have a good team of bulls to cover if you have numbers. Ideally, have a pre-breeding fertility check. It is limited in that you're just making sure that bull is fertile on that day. But at least if you do that, that nothing has happened to him maybe over the winter to affect his sperm production, or if it's a young bull, that at least he has on one day he's been able to produce viable sperm. So that's very important to get your vet to do that. But then once you've got the fertility checked and he's passed that, it doesn't mean that he's for sure going to work for the full season. Like a lameness or an illness and a high temperature or being overworked can turn these bulls off breeding. Like a high temperature can wipe out all the sperm in the bull, and it could take 8 to 10 weeks for that to recover. So that's why it's very important to keep an eye on these and make sure that they're well treated. Like I do a visit at fertility checking, and I have on occasion checked bulls that have been in with cows, and it surprises me how little sperm they have if you check them on the day that there's a couple of cows after being served. They deplete quite quickly, so it's vital to have a team of bulls and rotating, give the bull a chance to recover. Some guys do it, give them 2 days on, 2 days off, or a night and day, but whatever. Once they get a break, it's important. And I suppose, look, from a vet's side of view of it, for trying to intervene for getting cows and calves, it's very hard for us to do anything once the bull goes in, because, as I said, some of our treatments will abort a very early pregnancy if it's there. So we tend, once the bull is gone into a herd of cows, we tend not to intervene unless we're sure that that if the cow is either cystic or an estrus. But if they're cycling, we just let them go, and we just hope that they're in calf, because it's very hard to do anything about that. But just don't. I suppose the message there is definitely don't forget about the bull. It's very, very important. And that really is all we're doing at the moment with cows and their breeding. Like, I suppose if we were having this discussion maybe 4 or 5 months ago, we'd have started somewhere else. Like, we'd have made sure that all the vaccinations were up to date, like IVR, Lepto, BVD. All of these have a huge effect on fertility. So you'd make sure that they're done before the breeding season. So, like, for guys that haven't those done now, maybe putting a plan in place for doing for next year, getting that done before the breeding season is vital. Obviously, mineral profiles, again, the last thing you want to find is in the middle of the breeding season you have a problem. So, like, if we suspect a problem before the breeding season, it'd be better take blood samples, get your vet to take blood samples, to get soil samples, maybe grass samples if needed, so that we know what's going on. We can intervene before the start of the breeding season. The other thing that we can do, again, is too late to do a vasectomy or a teaser operation on bulls now, because they need 6 weeks before they're ready to 6 to 8 weeks before they're ready to work. So, like, if you think that maybe you'd like to have a teaser bull for next year, now it's time to be picking out the bull calf, the strongest bull calf you have, and pick them out. We could do that. Operations can be done in August, September, October, and you're ready. You're not picking a time when you're relatively quiet rather than having to try and do an operation on the bull in the middle of March. Like, again, we probably for next year we talk about maybe, do we want to use sex semen and get your heifers maybe synchronized early. It makes, like, synchronizing and using sex semen this time of year is you're pushing it, because cow is bred next week. The calf is only going to hit the ground late February, start of March. You're you're probably pushing it for getting it on your getting to be a replacement. And again, like similar to the mineral profiles, we do a silage analysis for both energy and protein, but also for the minerals, just again to make sure that we can get our dry cow diet right and get the appropriate level of nutrition, like body condition score. Like if you can get body condition scoring, the cow's body condition scoring right all the way through the year, it minimizes so many of your problems. Thin cows and fat cows cause all of our calls more or less in an adult. If you have a thin cow, she really is going to be under pressure. She's going to have more likely to get displacement, more likely to have milk fever, more likely to have womb infections, more likely to have inactive ovaries. Similar to the fat cows, they're going to have the milk fever problems. They're going to have to hold on to cleanings, their liver problems. Like, it's all about knowing what you have. If you're going to be feeding them poor silage, you can go and you can supplement. If you have excellent silage, you have to restrict. So all that is important to know, and it has huge effects on your fertility for the following year. So at the end of this year's breeding, get your final scan and see, oh yeah, okay, are you happy with it or not? And if you're not happy, put in a plan in place with your vet to intervene and make sure that next year's one is better. So it's important to take stock and do it on time. I think the time to do planning is October, November. You can at least get a plan in place for May, rather than thinking about it when your head is still thinking about the heifers that are trying to kick your hands off in the barter. It's a lot better time to do that. And really, I think that is more or less what I have to do on. I'll be happy to answer any questions after.
Yeah, no, thanks a million, Kevin. No, that's brilliant. There has been plenty of questions come in for you already, Kevin, but I think you might have even answered a lot of those questions, by going through your slides. But we are going to move into the demo for a couple of minutes. But as I said at the start, if you have any questions on the back of what Kevin has just discussed there, anything you'd like to ask him, or obviously anything from myself in relation to Herdwatch, just keep your questions coming there and we'll get to them in a couple of minutes' time. Thanks a million for that, Kevin. We'll bring you back in there in a minute when we get to the Q&A part. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes now just actually showing you how to record some of the stuff that Kevin was discussing there in the Herdwatch app itself. So I'm just bringing up Herdwatch first of all. And you'll see here on the home screen of Herdwatch, we actually obviously have an icon or an area that's focused and dedicated to helping you to manage your breeding. So when I click in here from the home screen, it gives you a number of different lists that you can click into at any time to see certain areas of how your breeding is going throughout the breeding season. So I think the first thing Kevin had touched on there is trying to identify, cows that maybe aren't cycling. And trying to get your heats recorded as, probably two of the first most important things when it comes to your breeding season. So if you are using Herdwatch to do your calf registration, so if you're suckler or dairy farmer, you can obviously get your calves registered on the spot after you tag them in Herdwatch. But what Herdwatch will then do is, if that cow doesn't show any signs of cycling, so no heats recorded, no SIRS recorded, 42 days after calving, those cows are going to show up in the non-cycling view, or this non-cycling list, for you to help you to stay on top of these animals and maybe take an action on them, whether that might be getting your heat detection or heat observation recorded, or obviously recording your service via AI, or you're able to get the cow back in calf. So really, really handy views, first of all, in here within the breeding tile or breeding icon. You can see here you'll also be able to view all your serves. If you're scanning your cows, you get your expected calving dates to know when they're due to calf. You'll obviously be able to see the list of all your cows that have calved this year, your heats when they're due, and what animals are yet to be scanned. So if you have AI cows, but you haven't scanned them yet, you can quickly see a list of those cows as well. In terms of actually adding in or recording some of these events, how do you do that? Very quick and easy to do. As always, when you're doing anything new in Herdwatch, you want to add anything, once you click into breeding, you can just select on your orange plus button, or your do something, your action button in the bottom right hand corner. That will bring up your action drawer. You can see what you can record there. So all your breeding events pop up here and you can select whatever you want. So if you have your serves, your scan results, I'm going to focus first of all on our heat observations. So at the start of your breeding, once you notice your cows in heat, you need to record that straight away. So you can just select the date. Now we'll always put in today's date on any of the tasks that you record in Herdwatch as today's date. But if you noticed the cow in heat yesterday or a couple of days ago, you can just click on your calendar and move it back a couple of days to whenever you actually notice the animal in heat. You'll see here we have a heat reminder days, and it defaults to 3 weeks, 21 days. So what that's going to do is any cows that you select on your heat observation or your heat check task, 3 weeks after that, you're going to get a notification in Herdwatch, in the watchboard area, that there's heat due on these cows, and you might need to actually go and AI or serve those cows at that stage. But the beauty of having Herdwatch is it's going to send you that automatic reminder on that morning, so you're not missing out on cows that need to be, served or you need to take an action on. So that's what Herdwatch is all about, is keeping you in check, making sure you don't miss anything. You can also set the number of cycles that you want a reminder for here in relation to the heats. So once you select your date, you can change your days if you need in terms of your reminder. You just select next, brings into your list of your cows. And it's very, very easy from here. You can just scroll down along the list, to find the animal you want. Now, if it's one individual animal, you can obviously search for the tag by just popping in tag at the top here, and it will filter the list and find that animal for you. So I'll just select one cow here, and then I can just hit save. It's as easy as that. I have my heat done. That can be done when you're down on farm, on the spot, and you can forget about that cow then for the couple of weeks, knowing well that you're going to get your reminder in 3 weeks' time in the watchboard. So how that reminder actually looks, if I just pop into the watchboard for a second, you can see that, already the watchboard is showing me, heats that are due from heats that I maybe recorded a couple of weeks ago. You also hear that I see here I watch for repeat. So cows that I have actually AI'd, it's sending me a notification that these animals might be due to repeat as well. So it's just making sure that I don't miss out on anything that I need to record for my breeding. But just if I pop into my heats due, you can see that it's actually telling me that 6 cows there that the heats are due for today. So what I can do from here then is just select on my orange plus button again and go then and actually record. I can select the 6 animals here, just select the little tick box in the top left-hand corner, and then you see you have an option to actually create your serve from here. Select your serve date. I'll just leave it as today. Now straight away that's giving me my expected calving date for these animals for next year. And then the last thing you need to select is just the sire, the AI bull, for argument's sake, that you've used on these animals. When you click in here, it'll bring up a list of your active AI bulls. So the way that works in Herdwatch is it'll show you any bulls that you've added into Herdwatch or any bulls that have been used on either a calf registration or a serve or a breeding event in the last 2 years. So you might have some bulls in your system that don't show here, but I will show you, if they're not showing up for you, I'll show you how easily you can find those and set them as your active AI bulls in a second. I'm just going to select this AI bull here. Liverpool are playing tonight, so Mo Salah is our favourite bull. So just select our AI bull, select next, and already the 6 cows are already selected for me, so I don't have to go looking for them again. Now, if you only AI'd a couple of them and not all 6, you can click in here and maybe deselect 1 or 2 that you didn't actually AI on that day. And then you can just save that record. And that's my heat's recorded, and that's the serves then recorded for some of those cows where I've got my reminder straight away. So very quick, very easy to do in Herdwatch. And the beauty of doing it in the app as well is that you're going to get all your reminders, all your notifications, so all your heats due and all your repeats as well. So you're not going to miss anything or any important things that you might need to do to keep animals in check. I might just pop back into the breeding view again. I know, Kevin, you touched on it in your slides, I suppose, the importance of recording the pre-breeding scans. It's something we hear farmers talk a lot, myself even a lot more nowadays. That's obviously a really important thing to do. And is it something you'd recommend for all farmers to do, Kevin?
Well, certainly some level of well, for the farmer certainly to look at for the 3 weeks before the start of the season. I think it's vital for him to look and see what is happening. Like some of our clients would get us to look at all our cows just to do a complete pre-breeding scan. But to be honest, I think maybe the better bang for their buck is really to monitor their cows themselves, and then get us to handle the ones they haven't observed cycling, and then we can intervene with those. Like you probably get 90, well, maybe not 90%, but there'll be a huge percentage of them cycling normally that we won't have to do anything with. So if we are presented the ones that aren't cycling, you're just getting it. You're reducing the time, the amount of the stress on the cows, but you're getting us to treat the cows, presenting us cows most likely needing treatment. That's the big thing,
Okay, thanks, Kevin. And I suppose that's where Herdwatch is going to step in and help massively again, because as I mentioned at the start of the demo, you have this view here that's going to show you your non-cycling cows. So anything that you haven't recorded a heat for or a serve since she last calved, you're going to be able to come in here, and maybe if Kevin is out on farm, you can get him to focus on these cows in terms of doing a pre-breeding scan. So from within here, you can just select your pregnancy scan via the orange plus button. And you can see what we've added in here is you can actually just do your normal pregnancy scan, or as Kevin was saying, you can actually just pop across and just select pre-breeding. And then select next. So if we do a pre-breeding scan, we can just select one of these cows here now, and you can just mark based on what your scanner tells you whether she's barren or acyclic or whether she's cycling regularly, and you can just mark that on that cow. There's also other options here, like, she's cyst or if she's dirty or not to be served. You might want to make a decision around maybe culling that particular cow. But just within Herdwatch, it's just allowing you to record that event and take an action on an animal based on what you record here. So other than that, you can go back. I can leave this. I can actually, if I want, to just record a pregnancy scan, which is the last thing on my demo here as well, is just how easy and how quick after you record your serves, you can record your actual scan results for your cows as well. So within the breeding view again, orange plus button and select pregnancy scan. Now this time, instead of a pre-breeding, I'm just going to leave it as a general pregnancy scan. Select next. This is bringing me into I can click into the list of all the animals that have been, or all the cows that have been served, and you can see how long it is since they were actually served, or how long it is since they actually calved. This view here will bring you into all your breeding females. So if they haven't been served, you can still, if they maybe caught by the bull, you can pop in here and you can find them, and you can just add your scan results. So scroll down along as normal, or if you know the animal's number, you can just type in the tag number to find an animal. And you can just say if she's in calf, if she's 40 days in calf, and you can actually toggle here whether she's in calf or not in calf. So I'll just leave her in calf, select on 40 days again, next, and save for that animal here. Takes a second to save. What that'll do is then it'll put her into the scanned in calf list as well within your breeding view. So when you click into this area in breeding, you can quickly see cows that have been served, cows that have been scanned, ones that need to be scanned, or obviously your non-cycling cows. So the last thing I will show you is just, I mentioned it a couple of seconds ago, was how to find maybe AI bulls that haven't. I think there's a question there about that actually as well. How to find, if I'm recording a serve off an AI bull and I can't find the AI bull in my sire list. So sometimes that happens because that bull might have slipped into your legacy bull list. So if you click into your herd list, pop up the smart lists, and you see that you have two AI bull lists. You have your active AI bulls. This is AI bulls that have been used in the last 2 years. And you also have legacy AI bulls. So this might contain bulls that maybe you haven't used in more than 2 years, but maybe you're using again this breeding season. So what you can do is you can just come down along, find maybe an AI bull that you used previously that you're going to use again this year. So if I can select this guy, and to just move him back into your active list, and just click on my 3 dots and edit him. And you just need to set this toggle. So he's not set as an active AI bull. Just turn this back on and hit save. And what will happen then is this particular AI bull will now show up in all my sire lists for my serves, or obviously for my calf registration. So I think that's pretty much it. Just while I have our Irish farmers here, and just to let them know that obviously if you are using a technician or an AI man on farm, we do link with ICBF here in Ireland, which does allow you to pull down all those service dates and AI records automatically into the app. So you don't have to actually go and record the serve dates for your cows if your technician has been out on farm. They will be uploaded to ICBF, and through our link with ICBF, we'll pull all that information down for you so that you'll know when a cow is AI'd and are expected calving day without you having to do anything. So if you do have a technician on farm or an AI man on farm, if the serves are not coming into Herdwatch, do just please get in touch and we'll help you to get those records in there. We are working with our UK compatriots as well. So CIS, we're in the process of trying to get those breeding events from CIS down into Herdwatch as well, the same as we do from ICBF. And just for our dairy farmers as well, that ICBF link will bring down all your milk records if you're milk recording animals as well. That's all from me from the demo for now. There's a couple of questions here. I might just jump over into that if you don't mind, Kevin. I know people may be waiting to get some answers from you. So the first question we had this evening, Kevin, it actually came from Alan. So thanks for your question, Alan. He's asking, hi, Kevin, how soon after a cow calves, can you go with a seeder or prid?
Look, I suppose what we would say normally is we don't intervene for 42 days, okay? We give them 42 days to recover. But when you push on to later in the season, you can advance that. So, I suppose it's fine for a January calver, and she get 42 days plus because before the breeding season starts. But if you have kind of an April calver that you want to be maybe a March calver next year, you can intervene a bit sooner. So later in the season, we intervene sooner. So, like, the earlier you intervene, you're reducing the conception rate at the induced heat, but at least you're getting recycling. So, like, I'd often be of the opinion that okay, it is a lower percentage time or thing to do, but it's still worth the percentage. Say if you did 5 cows and instead of we'd say 10 cows. If you did 10 cows, in a normal system, you're expecting 6 of them to go and calf to the induced heat. While if you're doing it cows that are maybe shorter calves, or you've intervened at 10 days earlier, you might only get 4 of them to go and calf, but into that induced heat. But that still might be worth it towards the end of the season, because or if you're looking for if you're looking to get maybe a dairy straw into a cow or a replacement straw, you want to get them, to give them one chance to get a replacement off this cow. So that's why we go that. So I suppose 28 days is the absolute minimum I probably would go is to answer it. But the longer you leave it, the better your chances of getting a fertile heat from the induced from the the hormone program.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Hopefully that answers your question, Alan, and thanks a million for it. Moving on to the next one, a question comes from Sean. It says, Kevin, would you recommend pelvic scoring or general measurement with the pre-breeding scanning when on heifer?
We tend not to do much of it. It's something that you hear talked about, but I have no real experience of it here. I think a lot of that has to do with he's looking to see will there be easy calving or not. But I think the way AI has gone over in Ireland anyway, that calvings have gone so easy. Calvings, the calves are quite small, especially compared to maybe 20 years ago. It's not as important as maybe it used to be. So the short answer is I don't do it, and I don't think anyone in this practice does. And there's 10 of us probably scanning. So
okay, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for your question, Sean. Moving on again. Next question for you is from Richard. Kevin, Richard is just asking, do dairy cows be vaccinated with Bovipast or RSP normally?
Normally, on a route, if you're doing a routine vaccination planner, it wouldn't be ones that I'd be including. Now that is very much a farm-specific question, though, because if you have had an outbreak of RSV in your heifers, I think I probably would be vaccinating. It's probably the one time that maybe I might just say we vaccinate the replacements, as they're entering into the cows. Normally, we'd be vaccinating everything. It's difficult to justify doing every herd in the country with Bovipast. But in specific problems, maybe if there's challenges with housing, or if there's a lot of animals being bought in, a lot of movement in and out of the herd, maybe it is something that we worth doing. But I would say we have quite a number of herds, 5 or 600 herds here, and I don't think we have 2 or 3 maybe doing it routinely on their cows.
Okay. Thanks again, Kevin. Cheers for your question, Richard. Next question is from Tony. Tony's asking, what are the risks with IBR and lepto vaccinations after breeding has started? He's just wondering, would it be safer to wait until the end of his breeding season or leave it altogether until next year?
Well, first of all, IBR is licensed at any time of year, so there's no real risk with IBR. It's certainly you can use that at any stage. And again, talk to your vet about what program suits you best. But the sooner you vaccinate, the sooner you protect. So, but certainly IBR is not a problem at any stage. We do a lot of vaccinating at her test this time of the year. They do a lot of vaccinating when they're heavily pregnant. It has the IBR vaccination doesn't cause an issue. The lepto vaccine, I suppose, going back a number of years ago, that there was a study that showed that Leptovoid, which was the only vaccine at the time, caused a problem in early pregnancy. But that study, they've rerun that study, and they can't replicate the results of that study. So while it may still appear on a data sheet that vaccinating with lepto too close to the start of the breeding season is not advised, I'm less concerned. I'm more concerned with the problems you have if you had a lepto outbreak. So I would be less worried about that. And like leaving lepto, like if you're talking about boosting, say last year's lepto, if you let your vaccine lapse to 13 months since your last vaccine, you're going to have to go and start the whole program again. So you're going to have to go into 2 shots. So if you're within 13 months of last year's vaccination, I would definitely boost. But otherwise, yeah, you can leave it if you want. I suppose if you're starting off, you probably should have done before the start of the breeding season, ideally, because lepto can cause early abortion anyway, or early embryo death. So to get your most out of your vaccine, you should have it done before the start of the breeding season anyhow. But I wouldn't actually be concerned giving cows lepto or either leptospirosis vaccines at the moment. I don't think they really are an issue.
Okay, thanks for that advice, Kevin. I'm going to give you a break here for 1 second because there's a question for me. Somebody's just asked, how do you hide last year's serves and other breeding information from the view? So very good question. Very, very easy to do. So if you do notice that some of the serves and some of the older information is shown, it's probably just because your breeding settings need to be updated. So from the Herdwatch app, obviously, if you click on your 3 lines in the top left-hand corner and just pop down to settings, and then into your breeding settings, I recommend just setting your calving season start date here to the 1st of the 1st, 2022. Because once you do that, all it's going to show in most of your breeding views is what's happened since that date. So it's probably set maybe the 1st of the 1st, 2021 at the moment. And that's why maybe some of last year's events and stuff is showing up. So once you change that and hit the save, it should hopefully clean up that view for you and only show, what cows have calved this year and what sort of animals have been served, etc. this year. But if you come back to me if you have any other questions on that. I have 1 or 2 more questions for you, Kevin, before we finish up. The next one is a question from Lorna. Lorna's just asking, what's the best way to record estramates, prids, enzaprost, Meticure? Is there an option? And Lorna's also asking, is there an option for vet fertility work or a plan to introduce this in the future?
I did ask for you, actually. I did ask for how you record.
Oh, maybe it actually is. Yeah, sorry. It says question for Kevin. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay, Lorna. So how you actually record all these things, basically, Lorna, from a Herdwatch perspective, are just recorded as treatments. So the first thing you're going to have to do, if you haven't used Herdwatch for any of your medicine or treatment records before, when it comes to basically any vaccinations or any medicines used on farm, they need to go into the app as a medicine or remedy purchase first of all. So the easiest and quickest way to do that is instead of actually going to breeding, it's going to live in here in compliance. So you just click into your compliance, and once you, like I said, first things first, put in the medicine as a purchase first. So click on plus, click on remedy purchase, and select, from the list. You can obviously filter down the list, to find any vaccinations or any medicines you're after purchasing. Pop the details in, the amount that you bought, any withdrawals if applicable, and then just save it. And once you do that, you can then come back in, select the plus button again, and create a cattle treatment. And this will show you a list of all the medicines and all the remedies that you've actually purchased on farm, including any of these new ones that you've mentioned here. You can just select them. I'll just pick co-print strip here just as an example to show you how to create the treatment. So pick myself here. Once you can see that I put in all this information from previously around the actual how much I bought, what the withdrawals are. Now, some of your vaccinations might or might not have withdrawal periods. And then you just select next, and you can select the animal or the group of animals that you've actually dosed or you've actually maybe vaccinated. So for vaccinations, you may be doing larger groups of animals. this is where using the Herdwatch groups and the smart list can be really, really handy. So you can also filter your herd. So if you had 2022 calves or heifers or cows, you can very quickly and easily find any of these. So if I click on my cows, I can select them all here in a couple of seconds and just hit save, and that will save that treatment for all that group of animals, Lorna. So hope that answers your question. But fires off another message, or just to let everybody know that if you have any questions generally on how to use Herdwatch, we have a support team here that are happy to help. So the best way to get in touch with us is just actually using the message center in the app in the bottom right hand corner. Just pop us a little message with what you need some help with. There is a question for you this time, Kevin. It's from Michael. Michael is asking, Kevin, sex semen cow in standing heat this morning, normal AI this evening. Do I go earlier or later with sex semen? Sorry if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's you go later really with sex semen. The reason is that sex semen, there's less draws, and they're less vigorous. I think they don't last in the uterus for as long. So you want to make sure that they're there when the egg is released and has made its way down through the uterine tubes. So it's better to leave it that little bit later. So go for definitely don't do it while they're still on heat.
Yep,
so it's the egg is released after something like 16 hours after the start of standing heat. So you don't want the semen to be there, and if you go too early, they have died by the time the egg may have reached its way down to where they congregate. So that's the simple way of explaining it.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Question for myself from Fiona. Fiona's asking if you can record gestation dates by bull. So if an AI bull is 280 days, but your own stock bull is 290. Good question, Fiona. So you can obviously, by default, I believe the gestation length in Herdwatch is set to 280 days. So if you use or create a serve today at 280 days, that's what it's going to give you as your expected calving date. But I know I popped in here to the breeding settings earlier on, so this is something you can change again, Fiona. So when you come down along here, you can see that the gestation period for my own account here is set to 280 days. So if I was using AI, I would leave it set to 280 days. But at the point of where you're maybe having the bull, or if you're recording a serve, where your bull is mopping up, you can change that setting from 280 days to 290 and hit save, and then record your serve off your stock bull, and that will calculate your estimated calving date based on 290 days gestation. And then obviously if you're going back to AI, you can change it back over again. But if you don't change it, it'll stick to the default 280 days, even if you are using the bull, for mopping or to create serves using your bull. So hope that answers that question for you, Fiona. I think that's it, Kevin, in terms of the question. So thanks for bearing with me while we were getting through them there. So we're nearly finished, everyone, with tonight's webinar. There's just one or two little small bits I would like to just share with you before we finish up this evening. So first of all, just to let you know that we are working really, really hard in the background, and coming very soon, we have some exciting new additions to Herdwatch, particularly when it comes to your breeding and breeding performance. So we're actually going to be adding a new breeding insight / breeding performance dashboard to our breeding tile, which is going to give you a huge amount of high-level information in a couple of seconds. So you want to be able to click in here and see things like, the amount of cows that have been served, the amount of cows that haven't been served, the amount of cows that maybe been scanned empty, your 6-week in-calf rate, etc. So that's all going to be available to you within this new breeding performance area that's going to land in the app in the coming weeks. So you can just kind of see a little bit of a preview of it here, what it's going to look like. You'll be able to change your breeding season dates as well, and any of those views you'll be able to click in and see the animals that are applicable to those views. So maybe your cows served or your cows not served. You can quickly see if there's 10 cows not served. You'll be able to find that list of cows by just clicking on that icon within the breeding performance area. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It should be landing in the Herdwatch app in the coming weeks. And just another piece of news as well. I know we maybe touched on this on previous webinars, but if you obviously have cattle, but maybe you have sheep as well, or if sheep is your main enterprise, we have recently launched our new Flock Watch by Herdwatch. So if you are a sheep farmer, you are able to access Flockwatch, through the Herdwatch app now. So you do still need to download the Herdwatch app, but if you're a sheep only farmer, when you're setting up your account, you just select sheep and it'll bring you straight to Flockwatch. But if you do have sheep alongside cattle, you can set up Flockwatch to run alongside Herdwatch, and you can just switch from one to the other within the one app and manage your flock as well. And it does integrate with EID readers too, to allow you quickly add your animals in and then record your medicines, your lambing events, and very soon you'll have breeding and weight recordings as well for sheep. So it's going to help you just remove paperwork and stay on top of your flock as well as your herd. And we have actually come to the end of tonight's webinar. So I suppose, first of all, Kevin, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on board again this evening, and for all the stuff that you shared. I think everybody watching got a huge amount of insight and information and benefit out of what you presented. So thanks a million again. Other than that, thanks everyone for staying tuned. If you do have any questions we maybe didn't get to, as I said, just use the message center, drop us a little message in there, and somebody from the support team or our sales team can give you a call if you have any questions. The phone numbers are there as well. And just one thing, if you're looking to get your hands on, some of the gear like the jacket that I'm wearing, it's so easy and quick to do this. You just have to, claim your rewards or claim your Herdwatch gear by referring somebody to Herdwatch to set up a free account, and you'll be able to earn some rewards, get your hands on some of the Herdwatch gear really quickly and really easily. So if that's something you'd like to do, you just go to herdwatch.com/rewards, all the details there, or just give us a call and we'll help you out. And do just try and make sure that we're constantly trying to add to Herdwatch and to Flockwatch now as well. So do make sure you keep the latest version of the app installed on your phone. Other than that, once again, Kevin, thanks a million. And yeah, keep your eyes out. We'll have another webinar coming down the tracks very, very soon, and we'll speak to you then.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.